Hello, you beautiful people out there. What is going on? This is your friend Birdie coming at you fast with some Paragon gameplay. And today is our first look at the map Monolith, aka Monolith. For those of you who do not know the lingo, okay, yo, it is a pretty fun map. And this is going to be a pretty long video, if you guys couldn't tell already. And in this video, I'm just gonna be talking about a lot of stuff that's on my mind. My first impressions, the pros, the cons, what I think's gonna happen moving forward, who I think the best heroes are right now. Just a bunch of information, answering a lot of questions that have been asked to me during stream and all that kind of stuff. What are the best strategies, what to do, blah blah. And I kind of held out on this video for as long as I could. I actually took a break from studying for my finals that are coming up, which is why there has been a lack of videos, as you guys know. So I decided to make one big video for the rest of the week and for the beginning of next week too, while I'm still have my hands tied up, to kind of give my first opinion and responses about the game and just explain to you guys what I think about it so far and what I like about it so far. So I want to point out one thing real quick, is that the enemy Kallari did a very smart thing here. I'm highlighting the Kallari on the map. While I'm taking this camp, she actually went ahead and sneakily went invisible and just guessed that I was going to be on this side of the map, I think. And just use that time while Sparrow and Muriel on my team were pushing up that lane to actually hear me out, wait until I took a lot of damage from the buffs, just chilling, and then started dealing damage to me and actually ended up killing me. And that is the only death I get in this match. It was a good play by the Kallari, I had to admit, so I wanted to just give a little shout out to So Spades, but it was a good kill, but it actually set him back a little bit. So yeah, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later on when I'm talking about it. So first impressions, let's start with the good things. Let's start with the pros, what I really liked about Monolith, and that is the pace of the game and the fluidity of the gameplay mechanics themselves. Okay, so what do I mean when I say that? So basically, all the abilities, except for some that really haven't had their animations changed just yet, like Grux's pull, for example, just looks fucking hilarious. It's just like on crack, just like for those of you who've seen his pull, it looks really funky. But a lot of the animations have been improved. The timing for a lot of abilities have been sped up, and it just seems very fluid and kind of a bit more beautiful, in the casting. Like, for example, Gideon's a really good example. His ult speed has increased a lot. It went from like 5 seconds to 3 seconds, I think, and it just feels really good. His meteorite dropping from the sky just comes down with a big thud. It's just really nice. It feels how the game should have felt all along, and that's really good. From rotations to minion hitting to last hitting to killing and team fighting, it all just feels really fluid, and that's the most important part right now. Obviously, there's some kinks that they can work out, some art design that obviously they haven't worked on yet. As you guys see, these minions don't even have textures yet, because technically the art is still in alpha state, right at the very release of Monolith. So it's still technically in alpha state, and you really want to appreciate the mechanics first before you start delving into the art. You want to make sure your game works before you make it fancy, and that's kind of what Epic Games are trying to do here, in my opinion, and I think it's fine. I think they should worry and focus on that first. So that's what I really like. I really like how they changed up the stuff. I do like the new jungle. I like the amount of verticality that they added. The movement is taking a bit to get used to, but it does feel nice. It feels right, it feels nice. The 1 CP kind of, takes a bit of time to get used to, but it starts making sense once you start getting into the flow of the game and realizing, okay, how can I get more CP right now? What can I do to get more CP and stuff like that? So that's really, really nice. And in general, you just got to be open to change. There's a lot of stuff that, I was used to. I've played Paragon since the beginning of the closed alpha, all the way back in March. For 9 months, I've played on the same map, and yeah, they changed it a lot of times, and you would get used to that change, but this is definitely the biggest change we've ever had, and we have to be open about it. We have to be open-minded about it. We can't just play 2 games and be like, this sucks, just because we lose both games, because we're not used to playing how we're used to playing. It is very difficult for every single person to adjust to this new map. Just because I've been playing the game for 9 months, ever since it's pretty much closed alpha release, doesn't mean that I'm going to be amazing on this map right off the bat. I had to go through a learning curve as well, and I wanted to play around 10 games first before really giving my first impressions on this game, because the first couple of games I couldn't even put my finger on it if I really liked it or not. My first 2 games I played as Rampage. This is actually my second PvP game ever that you guys are witnessing right here, not the first, just because I like my results in this one better, and we played against people that I actually know. For example, Mooney, who is an Epic developer, and In Us We Trust. We played against both of them, so that was lots of fun, playing against higher tier people that I actually recognize. So that's kind of why I wanted to put this in here. But you know, I didn't really even know if I actually was having more fun while playing this game. I didn't know if it was something that I was really enjoying, you know? So I wanted to make sure that, hey, can I play some games where I lose some more, where I win some more, and all that stuff. And yeah, I played about 10 games. I think 9 or 10, and I'm pretty much 50-50 on win-loss. I played Rampage, Chimera, and Greystone in offlane, and I played Chimera and Rampage, obviously, in jungle. And I've had lots of fun in the jungle, for sure. I really like the new jungle, and I'm a jungler main, so of course you guys already know it's your boy's gonna like the jungle. But I'm a fighter main as well. I play each and every fighter, pretty much. And a lot of fighters, at least in the old version of Paragon, were offlaners, like Greystone and Kwang. And they still are offlaners, but you gotta play offlane in a different way in this game. And it just seemed kind of weird at first, and I didn't like it at all at first. Until I started understanding, like, and that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. Is I'm going to show you a bunch of tips and tricks that I've kind of like figured out while playing my first 10 games, and maybe try and give you guys some beginning tips to move forward with deck design and all that kind of stuff. So the cons, one thing that I really don't like is the fact that health got nerfed straight into the underground. Like, not even the ground. Like, it went past that. It went past the motherfucking bedrock. It went straight to hell, right in between Satan's butt cheeks. Like, it just got absolutely shit on, and I really don't know why. Because for those of you who didn't read any of the patch notes, have no idea what the fuck's going on, or are playing Paragon for the first time, crit chance and crit bonus damage are back to what they used to be all the way back in March and April, with a lot of crit chance, a lot of, 1 point can get you like, 4. 1 point can get you 4% crit chance. So a fully maxed out crit item, a 12-point crit item, will give you at least 40% crit chance, which is kind of ridiculous thinking about, what we're used to as of late. It's just, it's kind of insane. So, one, they brought that back up. Next, they changed the crit total damage from 150% or 200% total back to 250%. And just because they made Blade of Agora 6 points instead of 3 points doesn't mean that crit damage still doesn't do a motherfucking shit ton of damage. Like, I'm gonna let you guys know, when I played Greystone, I did a crazy wacky build. Because like I said, health is out the window. Don't even think about health. I couldn't really build Tankstone the same way that I really like to build him. So, I decided to try and do something else. I tried to build him more damagey this time around. And Lord behold, you build him with damage, crit chance, crit damage, and lifesteal, and that dude is dishing out 340 damage per auto attack, getting that life back with however much lifesteal you build, with 2 motherfucking lives. Like, he is going in. He is crazy good. That's one build that I really enjoyed, and it just obviously depends on the setup. Like, if you start steamrolling, oh, it's GG. But if you're kind of behind, it's a bit harder. Like with any build, really. So, just forget about health. Forget about health at all, okay? So, like, I don't understand why they nerfed health when bringing those other stats back up. Like, they brought damage so goddamn high that if they left health the same as it was, it would be perfect in my opinion. I think it would be greatly balanced already if they just brought health back. Or at least don't nerf it by 50%, like bring it down to 80% maybe. Like instead of 1 point giving you 100 health, maybe 1 point gives you 75 health or 80 health, but not 50. That's literally nothing compared to the damage that Rangers can dish out now, that Burst, heroes can dish out. Like Fang Mao right now is ridiculously strong because of his shield and being able to crit, and then also having all of his abilities just being super bursty. It's kind of insane. Right now, the heroes that are dominating are those that can deal a lot of damage really quick, because tanking and survivability and outplaying is harder than ever right now because the game is pretty much on speed. It's been sped up. so much that trying to, kite people out and, use your cooldowns to outplay them and, try to use some delayed team strategy, it's not going to work. Basically, whoever bursts whoever quicker is going to win the team fight. Like, if your Chimera jumps on that Twin Blast right away and he's building 100% damage and he just uses his ult and keeps on leaping and has help from his team, if you kill the enemy Ranger in the team fight, you pretty much guarantee yourself a victory in the team fight already, unless they have really good combos with like a Decker ult and a Gadget ult and a Howie ult or whatever. Basically, you get rid of the heroes that are meant to do damage and you are at a big advantage, because tanking is just so much more difficult. Like, if you play as a Richter support, as a Steel support, you probably would have seen some trouble in tanking just because you cannot build those tank items quick enough. It's not even the matter of fact of, and I talked to a lot of people about this, it's not even the matter of fact that, oh, you can't build damage and tank items now, which makes sense, okay? Tanks are not supposed to build damage items in the first place, and that's how it actually used to be, okay? Like, Rampages, well, they always build tanky because Rampage has always been broken, no matter what. But, like, Steel, for example, never build damage, ever in his life. Would ever build damage until, the, like, V28, V29 came along and you had all the damage cards, all the tanks started scaling, like, fighters and whatever. Like, that's really what they need to do, is they need to start implementing better scaling, I think. Start scaling like tanks and rangers and bruisers and fighters and casters and supports. Like, everybody has their own individual scaling instead of being broken up into the same three categories of rangers, fighters, and casters, because that's still actually how it is. Even if they don't say it, that's still how it is right now in Monolith. And I feel like if the tanking, if the scaling changed to like tank, for example, to just give more initial health and give more health per level rather than damage, then it would be way, way better than what it is right now. But what I'm trying to say is, yeah, you can't build damagey and tanky at the same time, at least not for a long time into the game. And that makes sense. That is fine. By the way, watch this awesome juke. Look at this. Woo! See you later. And I managed to go around the corner so this Kallari couldn't actually hit me with another one of the knife. Look at that. Look at them jukes. But, yeah. I'm not just saying that you can't build damaging tanky, I'm saying you can't even build tanky quick enough to keep up with the damage that the carries are accumulating, because with this new gold buff now, you have your rangers at about 28 CP by the time everybody else is like 23, 22 CP, and that's a big enough difference. To build good tanky items, you need 9 to 12 points per item. You haven't built health yet, you haven't built armor yet. All the little stuff that you have built is probably, the first 6-point cards that you usually build for your early game cards, but it's still not enough to compete with what the Ranger has built, which is damage, probably crit chance, and probably a Blade of Agora by now, because really you only need 9 points to build a Blade of Agora and give you that 100% bonus. So what I'm saying is, it's not balanced early game enough. Late game, I haven't really seen too much of a problem with it. I'd build tanky Rampage, and I would do what I need to do, plus deal some damage as well. Also, later down the road, I started building a bit more damagey Rampage. I actually put crit chance on my Rampage, and I put a Blade of Agora on my Rampage, and he was doing about 300 damage per basic attack. He still had his ult, had like a 27% crit chance or something, 30% crit chance, and I was about to finish building attack speed right before we lost to some really intense plays, but it was a close game for sure. But it was about the 50-minute mark where you could finally hit that 60 CP. A lot of the games end before people can hit 60 CP, I've noticed, like way more. Games have been sped up a lot, for sure. So, really, it's hard to keep up as a tank, and I feel like tanks have suffered a lot in this update. Rangers have done good in this update, and yeah, unless you get rocked in the face and then rocketed and then have a giant anchor drop on your face, then you still can't really do everything as a ranger, but you know what I'm saying. So if you're a ranger main, this is your meta right now, okay? The meta right now is deal as much burst damage as quick as possible, and you can use lifesteal for sustainability if you like, or health regen if your hero has that. Like Rampage has health regen, so I put some health regen cards on him. I'm still working around with the builds. That's why I kind of am not really throwing anything at you guys right now when it comes to build videos, but I do want to be able to throw out some concepts. So again, crit chance, crit damage, and lifesteal are all back into the fray. I suggest you guys experiment with that shit. For some tanking, substitutes, I've noticed some people go with attack speed and lifesteal on top of armor, which is kind of what I do with Rampage, and it's kind of worked around him specifically just because that's Rampage, and that's how you can play Rampage, with his ult and everything. And I think it's pretty good. But that's my biggest concern, is that just tanks in general as a whole thing got hit so damn hard, and I don't even know why. So, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some generic ass, tips, some stuff that I figured out, and some good routes, as a jungler at least, but also off laners and laners and safe laners and whatever the fuck you want to call mid laners also, just to give you guys the whole spectrum, just my whole opinion, right? Because even though the map changed and the hero's abilities have changed a little bit, it's still a MOBA, and you still have similar concepts and still similar strategies to what you want to do. So first things first on the list, the buffs spawn at about, so the green buff spawns at about a minute and a half into the game, and the white jungle camps start at about a minute 15. The river buffs spawn at 3 minutes, and I'm sure that's also when gold buff spawns. Don't quote me on that one because I have not played ranger or support whatsoever at all yet. I have been focusing on junglers. I haven't even played mid lane either. I've been focusing on my jungling just to try and, get my jungling back because that's my mastery. And then also offlaner as Greystone when I get bored of jungling and just want to mindlessly deal a shit ton of damage and not worry about dying because I have 2 lives. But a good thing to do is try to get green buff as quick as possible. With Rampage, however, he does have that built-in health regen, which is what I would recommend slotting with him first, because on this map, I noticed that ganking right away is actually not really the best thing to do, because you can lose out on a lot of farm and a lot of XP real quick if you start prioritizing ganking too much. Plus, minions deal an insane amount of damage early game. There's more minions now than there were before in the jungle and in the lane, so you just want to make sure that you understand what you're doing when it comes to that, and don't want to go ahead and try and spend too much time going for enemy kills because the CP really doesn't matter much. So this is going back to that first death that I had with the Kallari killing me. I want to pull up the scoreboard real quick. So that Kallari currently has 18 CP possible that she can slot right now, while I am at 20 CP. So even though she has a kill on me, she has 2 kills even. And I'm still pretty much equal with her on CP. Just to show you guys that it's not all about getting kills for your CP, it's also about farming. Now granted, Kallari is in the offlane, and it's very difficult to farm in the offlane. I'm going to get to that in a second. But still, it's not all about kills, guys. So prioritize farming as much as you can, especially in the first 5 to 6 minutes in the game, especially since towers have bonus armor in the first 6 minutes of the game, so it's hard to siege towers in general when that kind of stuff happens. So here, Gideon and I are trying to set up for a gank. I noticed both of them backing, so I'm going to go straight for the Twin Blast. I think I kind of get stuck in the motherfucking in the staircase, but Howitzer's over here bouncing shit on him. Boom, Gideon dropping the anchor ahoy up on Twin Blast, and again we're able to gank that lane. So it's actually pretty easy to gank, and especially you want to be ganking their quote-unquote safe lane as much as you can to be helping out your offlaner as much as possible. Now in this case, our offlaner was Gideon, which was really good because a ranged offlaner is so much more useful than a melee offlaner than you guys might realize. Again, another great kill by Gideon right there. Super quick reaction time, super quick drop of the anchor. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just so much fun to watch. It's just so quick. Sometimes you can even get lost. But anyway, I've been teasing a lot about the offlaner. Let me finish up with the jungler and then we'll move on to him. So like I said, getting a rotation down, and I'm going to make a specific video on this matter as well. Getting a rotation down in the first 3 minutes of the jungle is very important. And my rotation with Rampage is to go to that side that has those 3 camps, which I think is the, is it the safe side? It is the safe side because you get more side over there. But anyway, you want to go to the green side, as I call it. You want to go to the green side where green buff is. You want to kill all of those full white minion camps as quick as you can in a circle. And by the time you do that, you'll be really close to 3 minutes. If you're not close enough to 3 minutes, you can back then go back for river buff right as it spawns at 3 minutes. And if the river buff is a stealth buff, then I actually recommend highly that you go and try and gank their safe lane for your off lane, because stealth buff is super nice early game. Not a lot of people use wards, and basically it allows you to sneak up on the enemy without them even knowing you're there, be able to communicate with your teammates, and set up a very easy gank. And like, for example, if you're Rampage, and I found this absolutely hilarious, if you're Rampage, you can actually use your Q and pick up your rock while still remaining invisible, and I think it's hilarious because you still make the noise and everything too. You just hear a big old Rampage just go, "Ooh!" And as soon as you do that, the people start freaking out. They start freaking out, and they're like, oh, there must be nothing there. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and move along now. They turn back to farming the minions and just whop, hit the Twin Blast right in the back of the head with a big old boulder. It's absolutely hilarious. The stealth buff helps a lot. And if it's any other buff, like if it's a haste buff, which is blue buff, if it's a red buff, which increases your ability damage, which is nice if you're Grux or Rampage that have their leap or their cleave that just deal extra damage to minions, you should take that. If you're Chimera, you don't really need to take that unless you're going to be ganking, because that helps you with your burst damage a lot. Usually the river buffs, they say you should give them to your mid laner, but honestly I feel like the jungler utilizes them more, because there's also a damage over time buff that's really nice. Anyway, be in control of the river buff. That's a very important thing to do, is be in control of the river buff. It respawns every 2 minutes. Just like the green buff, respawns about every 2 minutes. So get that, come back every 2 minutes, and there's 2 river buffs, one on each side. So make sure they're constantly warded. Make sure you're warding like I am right there. You're warning the river that's close to lane, so you can, see the jungler coming, so you can see the enemy coming, and you don't really have to worry about it. Also, just fucking absolutely obliterate the enemy with your ult and leaps and everything and craziness. Also, another big thing that I noticed with Rampage is that his ultimate, he can like leap twice pretty much in the middle of his ultimate, because they didn't really account for the cooldown. Or maybe just barely he can leap twice. Like he can leap in, fight a little bit, use his ultimate, then leap out. Because they changed the cooldowns, right? Remember, they changed the cooldowns on everything, so he can leap way more often. Same thing with Chimera. He can leap every motherfucking 5 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous once you get that up. It's kind of crazy, to be honest. Like, I actually started slotting that second instead of his Q, instead of his attack speed boost, just because that cooldown is absolutely preposterous. I love it. It's so OP. It's so great. But if you really think about Chimera, I mean, Chimera got kind of buffed too with his regeneration, pretty much going higher for less stacks. Who cares if he caps out stacks too quick? He gets more per stack anyway. It's actually pretty amazing. He's able to reach health regeneration that he wouldn't be able to reach prior. So, deck ideas in general, like I said, a lot of damage. Focus that. And armor's not too bad either. The way I see pen, though, you don't really need to build too much pen. I don't see a lot of people focusing armor too much. And I don't see a lot of people focusing pen too much. So, yeah, and here's that stealth buff at work. So, like, I noticed the ward, for example, Howitzer's going to go ahead and kill that ward. And I'm actually able to see Kallari as well, but I mess up by picking up a rock, I think. What do I do here? Oh, no, I swipe at her. Yeah, I swipe at her. And that makes me go uninvisible. I should have picked up the rock first and hit her and stunned her out of her invisibility. But I didn't know back then that I could actually still pick up my rock and stay in invisibility. So that was kind of meh. But anyway, let's go on to the offlaners. I'm kind of rambling a little bit now, but it's okay. We have a lot of time in this video. Yes, this is the full gameplay. I'm keeping the full gameplay. So, anywho, offlaners. So what's the deal with offlaners? This sounds like a startup for a really, really shitty joke. The thing about offlane is that offlane is not about getting a lot of CP. It's not about getting a lot of CP. It's not about last hitting, okay? For those of you who don't know what offlane is the lane where you're 1v1, and as Kallari assassinates this Gideon right here, and their whole team shows up, and then I end up fighting because I'm just a fucking champion. I don't want to kill this Twin Blast, and I missed the rock because the animations are so fast. Offlaners are the one in the 1v2 situation when it comes to, the safe lane for the other team. Kind of crazy, kind of insane. It's really hard to get last hits as Greystone when you've literally got a Sparrow and a Muriel just poking the shit out of you, when you've got a Twin Blast poking the shit out of you, when you've just got a lot of stuff going on in your face. And early game, you can still take a lot of damage, and minions deal a lot of damage. So if you try to fight back and try to hit them, it's going to be really hard because most of the time, at least one of them is ranged, right? You're going to have a ranger. You're going to have an ADC, a carry, so to speak. They're going to be ranged. Supports, maybe like Narbash, for example, is not ranged, but still can still thunk you from range and can speed up his ally and just do a lot of stuff that will pester and annoy the shit out of you. And you can't really do anything about it until the minions are literally attacking your tower. And even then, the enemy can still poke you because their range can be far enough to actually hit you while you're under tower, which I think they should kind of increase the tower radius because of that, but I don't know. It's kind of insane how you have to literally be pressed up against your tower crystal to be out of range from the ranger poking you. So it's really not even possible to kill siege minions, which are the ones that focus the towers primarily. Anyway, those are the most important ones to focus, and you can't even do that because the ranger's right there on your doorstep hitting you. So the hardest thing about offlane is that you really can't last hit, but you do level up quicker than the other two. As long as you stay around the minions when they die, for your side, you will get XP, and you will get XP twice as fast as them because you're not splitting your XP amongst two people because you're the only person in lane while there's two people on the other side. So as Greystone, for example, you can get your ult way quicker than them. You're like level 5 by the time they're level 3. So card points, if you really think about it, card points do not matter until the people back for the first time. It does not matter. No matter how much CP you earned, those people still only have utilized their first 3 CP, right? You need a back to base to buy your cards first. So if you're higher in level, but they're higher in CP, you actually have the advantage, technically speaking, in that first encounter because you're just physically stronger. You have more points slotted into your abilities. Like, for example, Greystone, you are way tankier because you slotted into his passive, which gives you more basic attack resistance, which is great when you're going up against Rangers because they're mainly basic attacks, right? It's great. It's absolutely fantastic. So all you have to do really is hover around the minions. Don't worry about, getting last hits. Don't worry about trying to kill the enemy. Just level up as much as you can and wait patiently for your jungler. A good jungler will gank by the 5-minute mark, okay? And just going back, I know you guys are like, oh, but Bredick, but you said you need to farm up instead of getting kills. See, the thing is, you don't want to go too crazy with kills. It's not team deathmatch, but you also want to be able to help your offlane get CP as well. So if he keeps getting pestered by the ranger in lane, he can't really do it. When the ranger backs and it's only the support, it's much easier, much easier to get CP and last hits as Kwang or Greystone or whoever the fuck you're playing as, just simply because, hey, that's supports aren't going to do shit to you when it comes to damage. They can stun you, but they're not going to do anything to you unless you get ganked. So you need to have the jungler from time to time, especially with stealth buff, like I said earlier, come in and deal some damage to the enemy Twin Blast, to the Murdoch, to the Muriel or whatever, whoever you can actually, take damage from. This freaking Kallari, so sneaky. So definitely offlaners need a lot of help in the beginning because, Rangers are just absolutely ridiculous, especially with like Muriel or something with shield. That's another thing that I really wanted to point out. Any hero that has a shield, like Muriel or Feng Mao, are just great right now because health is not a thing. It's very low. Armor is not the best either, and it takes a while to set up a good amount of armor, to be honest. It's just kind of difficult to compete with that. So you definitely want to get some help in the offlane, I've noticed. But if you get that pressure and you start picking apart that quote-unquote safe lane of theirs, that gold lane of theirs, then you can actually deal a good amount of damage and inhibit the Rangers' success. No pun intended to the inhibitors. So yeah, I played kind of passively this game. I killed and ganked a bit more in the first game. I think I was like 7-3-5. This one I'm 3-1-7. I just like because I stay alive the whole time. You guys can kind of see my process uninterrupted. And we also kind of just do it more cleanly. But also that's another thing that I wanted to say is why it's good to have Gideon in solo lane, because he has that range, because he can do both. He can level up faster and he can still get that CP because he can reach the enemy with his abilities and his auto attacks. He can still reach the minions for those last hits and still be in a safe range, which is really, really nice. That's obviously really, really nice. So play it to your advantage. It's harder as a fighter to play an off lane, just simply due to the range aspect. You can just keep getting poked and poked and poked. But your closing, your abilities, your initiates are probably better than a ranger's are. And if you get help from your jungler and can gank pretty easily, then it's really, really nice when it comes to that. So, yeah, you're going to notice me being right here, just kind of not rotating at all. But it's because I believe in my teammates. I know they're not going to fight. It's because I'm smart. You really don't want to waste any time at all on this map. That's another thing I noticed. You really don't want to waste any time at all. It makes it really, really difficult to catch up later. Also, speaking of buffs, I missed two really important ones. Obviously, you have Orb Prime. You kind of just go about Orb Prime the same way you usually go about them. Only go for them once you kill 2 or 3 of the enemy, and you know where they are, and it's warded, and everything's good and dandy, and you know it's gonna be hard for them to catch up and kill you at Prime and whatever. You know, do that kind of stuff. I actually haven't seen anybody successfully steal Prime yet. It's kind of difficult because it's in a more closed off spot. It's kind of like a cave almost. But another buff, kind of, not really a buff, but an enemy, are the Raptors. These are the new ones, and a lot of people don't understand what the point of the Raptors are. So the Raptors are very, 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 very crucial. I'm gonna go ahead and actually fly over there so you guys know where they are on the map. They're actually closer to the enemy side for me right here. Actually, there looks like there's some stuff going on over here. I kind of want to check this out first. Holy shit, oh, what's going on here? Oh my god, they are sieging an inhibitor. Holy shit, I don't think they're gonna do it. Oh no, they are, because got 2 of the enemy down. They could totally do it. Mooney's really weak. We got minions showing up. Yup, we got a kill there. Alright. Now there's only 2 left. Oh, there's me. Oh, yeah, there's me. Hey, that's right. I showed up to this fight, and I started walloping on people, absorbing tower damage as Rampage like he's good at doing. And we just ended up actually killing this inhibitor. Yeah, I remember. Hey, look at that. Cool stuff. And I think we actually go back to get Prime in this case. I tell people to retreat and all that. Oh, no, that was a tower. Oh, yeah, that was a tower. This is the inhibitor. My bad. And I'm pretty sure we actually end up getting it. Yes, we do. We do end up getting it. So, yeah, so we got an inhibitor. Yeah, tier 2 and inhibitor are literally right next to each other. So, anyway, let me go show you guys the Raptors. Raptors are insane because they pretty much give you 1 CP per kill. Now, Raptors spawn at 4 minutes into the game. And 1 raptor spawns, actually it's over here, 1 raptor spawns every 4 minutes. So we've killed, you know, people have been killing raptors here pretty often, but every 4 minutes another raptor spawns, and it caps out, I think, at 3 is the most I've seen. Maybe 5, actually. Maybe 5, but I feel like 5 raptors is insane. But I think it's 5, actually. But you really don't want to let it go past 3 because these things have a ton of health. They deal a ridiculous amount of damage, and you kind of need at least 2 people most of the time to deal with them. Early on in the game, you pretty much need the whole team. It's kind of insane. They give you a lot of CP. With gold buff in hand, they give you 1,200 CP, which is a lot. It's at least 1 whole card point, if not a little bit more. And I don't remember how much it is without gold buff. I forget the percentage that gold increases your gold by. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. So you want to be in control of those raptors. You want to make sure they're warded. You want to make sure you're coming back every 4 minutes as much as you can. If you kill the enemy, if you kill like 1 or 2 enemies, you want to go for raptor buffs, because if you're busy fighting those raptor buffs and then you're contested for it and then the enemy steals that buff from you, not only did you take a shit ton of damage, not only did you waste a lot of time, you also pretty much gave them a free CP point right there, and they also have a higher chance of killing you because you're already weak from fighting those things. Honestly, you're also in a very little spot, so if you get caged and then ulted, you know, like by a Decker ult and then by a Howitzer ult, it's scary stuff, man. It's scary stuff. So again, treat the Raptors like Prime. Not as crazily, of course, because Prime is harder. But when you do have the time, try not to let those Raptors build up. Try to be on top of those. If you're somebody like Chimera or Rampage, you can solo the Raptors. You can solo them. It will take you a really long time, though. So make sure you understand the consequences. Make sure you know what you're doing, and that you're not wasting too much time trying to do that kind of stuff. So here I go again, diving as Rampage. Actually, I have green buff, so that gives me a good shield. And yeah, I mean, if you're playing confidently, if you're playing with your teammates, they know what they're doing, they're getting fed as fuck, you can still do it. This is actually my tanky-ish Rampage deck, but even still, like, with 12 points of health in this deck, I have 2,640 health. And it's nice right now, that's fine, you know, for now, because it's kind of later on in the game, but it's very, very difficult when it comes to, you know, earlier on in the game, like I said, when people are just really, really strong at what they're doing. And right here, I kind of don't want to go on this. I kind of want to back off. Yeah, I tell him to retreat because I'm just like, hey, you don't want to mess with that. You don't want to mess with that, hombre. And this is where we go for prime, I'm pretty sure. So, I talked about I haven't talked about mid lane. So mid lane, the biggest thing for you to do in mid lane is just try to not die. Try to not get ganked. It's actually really easy to gank mid lane because the river buff is right there. It's easy to cross, especially with stealth buff too. It's just easy to go ahead, rock somebody, deal a lot of damage, just be really crazy. Especially Howitzer right now. His ult is insane. It's really quick. It's really awesome. It's really sexy. I really want to try him in mid lane because I love Howitzer. And I do want to try Gideon too in mid lane just because he pretty much got buffed with this update too, which is great. And yeah, mid lane, just be cautious. Make sure to use your abilities a lot to not die. Build mana and mana regen. Build both mana and mana regen because you don't get as much mana as you used to with the cards that you have now. And also, mana regen just helps a lot to make sure you don't have those instances where, like, Bellica ults you for some ridiculous amount. Because Bellica's ult pretty much got a buff too, because now it's on a percentage based on how much mana you don't have. And if you're a caster with a lot of mana and you have a lot missing, you're going to get hit really hard in the motherfucking face, like with a goddamn spear made out of very heavy metal. I was about to say titanium. Titanium's heavy, right? It's like you're getting hit in the face with a spear of lead. There, that's a very dense object. It's gonna fucking hurt, okay? That's all you need to understand, alright? It hurts. So make sure you build mana regen if you're a caster too. It's just a bit better because mana itself did get a bit nerfed as well. But also, you know, like the mana usage of a lot of abilities have been changed around as well. So you kind of just have to take everything with a grain of salt. Just because the numbers aren't as big as they used to be in Legacy does not mean that they're necessarily worse. You just have to understand what's going on. Also, one really, like, simple thing that I did not point out that maybe a lot of people miss is that in order to move the fastest possible, look forward and move forward. If you backpedal, you will be slower. If you attack while moving, you will be slower. If you jump while moving, you will be slower. Just, if you need to run away, turn 180 degrees and run the other motherfucker away, like Charlie when he got his golden ticket to go to the chocolate factory. Thank you guys so much for watching. I mean, yeah, I didn't cover Rangers, but safe lane, like I said, it's kind of easy to really comprehend. Just have control of gold buff as much as you can. Last hit, push towers. Make sure the support is warding all around the safe lane. Make sure they're warding in the river. Make sure that they're not, you know, doing anything stupid, that they're not overextending, and all that other stuff. But this was my first impressions, guys. This was my first opinions on the video. That looks pretty raw. I'm not gonna lie. You can see my build of Rampage there as the core explodes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to put anything in the comment section below, if you agree with me, disagree with me, anything at all, just some crazy ass story, feel free. This is definitely one of my longer videos that I've ever had, but hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay nonetheless. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, make sure you all have a wonderful day.